Do you absolutely love making music, but when it comes to sharing it with the world, everything feels overwhelming? Trust me, I get it. The expectations on artists today are massive. You have to be the writer, the producer, the marketer, and the business manager all at once. It's exhausting, especially when you see others just as talented having their moment in the spotlight. But after working with both major label and independent artists for over 10 years, I've learned something crucial. There's no magic method, but there is a proven cycle. And today I'm going to show you how to master the cycle. Even if you're juggling a full-time job, family, or other commitments, we'll break down the entire release cycle from idea to promotion so that you can release your music without feeling overwhelmed and get it out to the people who need to hear it. But before we dive into the exact steps, there's a fundamental question I need you to ask yourself. Why are you releasing music in the first place? Is it because you love making music? Or is it because you want to get famous or make money? Or maybe it's therapeutic for you? Your motivation matters. If you don't have a clear reason for why you're doing this, it's so easy to burn out. There's nothing wrong with wanting fame or money, but if your primary drive isn't rooted in the love of making music, you might find that success feels far more elusive in this industry than it does in others. And let's be honest, there are far easier ways to get famous or make money than being a musician. But if you're passionate about creating, then you're in the right place. So from here on out, we're going to talk about setting goals and expectations that will keep you moving forward. First off, there are 3 types of goals when it comes to your career in music. There are input goals, there are output goals, and outcome goals. Understanding the difference between them is crucial because it's easy to get frustrated and burned out when you're focusing on things that you can't control. So, input goals. This is something you can control. For example, an input goal could be setting aside 6 hours a week for music. Whether that's songwriting, recording, learning, or promoting, you can control how much time you dedicate to your craft. That is an input goal. Output goals. This is a measurable goal you can work towards and track your progress. The greater your input, the greater your output. For instance, I want to release 1 single every 2 months. Now comes outcome goals. These are like dream goals. Things like I want 1 million streams, or I want to land on a major playlist. But here's the catch. Outcome goals are outside of your control. If you increase your input and your output, you can make the outcome more likely, but it does not guarantee success. So focusing too much on our output goals can set you up for disappointment. Sure, major labels can chase outcome goals because they have the resources, but as an independent artist, you need to focus on what you can control first, your input and your output. And even if you do have endless resources at your disposal, achieving outcome goals in the music industry is never straightforward. Major labels drop artists all the time when they don't meet their outcome goals because they can't predict how successful a song will be, no matter how much money they put behind it. That's why sticking to your input and your output goals is the foundation for success. Now let's get into the actual release cycle. This is the roadmap for pretty much every release. The complexity of it may vary, but the general steps are the same. Here's how it breaks down. Everything starts with an idea. Maybe that's a lyric or a melody or a concept. This is the first spark. You take that idea and you shape it into a full song. Here, you're crafting something that is tangible that others can connect with. Then, in the production phase, you expand on your idea, layering instruments, adding effects, and building the song into its full form. Then, you lay down any live vocals, live instruments, or any additional elements that will bring the song to life. Mixing balances the elements of your song, and mastering ensures that it sounds best on every platform. Then comes the distribution phase, the release phase. This is where you get your music out onto platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, through services like DistroKid or TuneCore or Ditto. Finally, there's a visibility phase, promotion, marketing, and networking. This is where you let the world know that your music exists. Each phase can be as simple or as complex as you like, but the key is actively doing each one. You won't grow if you're only focused on one part of the cycle. And if you learn something or meet someone new, each time you go through this entire process, you'll start to build momentum. And what's key to know is you do not have to achieve the impossible to grow. You just need to improve with each release. Remember, you're not measuring success by outcome goals. It's not about how many streams you get or how many fans you create. Those are out of your control. The real measure of success is whether you're hitting your input and your output goals. Are you putting in the time, and are you releasing the music according to your plan? If you are, then that is success and the outcomes will follow. So let me give you a situational example of how this might look. But before we dive into that, I just need to say one thing first. If you don't have a job right now or you're struggling financially, that is your number one goal to fix. Having a job gives you structure, helps you value your time more, and most importantly, provides the financial resources to reduce the stress in your life. When you have more financial stability, you're in a much better position to invest into your music career and create better music. Okay, let's look at an example. John works in London in a bar. He works 5 days a week, around 40 hours in total. His take-home pay is about $1,800 after taxes. After rent and utilities and general living expenses, John has around £400 of disposable income each month. He's got 2 days off a week and mornings available because he works evenings at the bar. How can John make progress in his music career? Well, let's make the assumption that he already has a computer. He can spend around £100 on an interface, £100 on a microphone, and £100 on a set of headphones. With free software like Reaper or GarageBand, he's ready to start recording his music at home. And with the remaining £100, he can sign up for a service like DistroKid Ditto or TuneCore for a yearly subscription. And so with just that first paycheck from his work, he can actually get through the entire cycle. Oh, and if he doesn't have a computer, the power of mobile phones these days is ridiculous. Just make sure that you're picking up an interface that will work with your phone. So now the basics is set, we can think about the input and the output goals. We can set an input goal of spending around 10 hours a week on music. This is completely achievable in the time that he has before work and on one of his days off. What he does in these 10 hours per week depends on where he's at in the song cycle and what manner in which he decides to go about addressing his output goals. Having an output goal of releasing every 2 months or so is perfect because you can build momentum between releases, and also it is a manageable amount of work to expect for yourself. But John faces a common challenge: limited time and limited budget. He's got a few options to move forward without breaking the bank or getting stuck in a creative rut. The key here is to be strategic with your resources, because a lack of money or a lack of gear or a lack of network should never be a reason to hold you back from progressing in your career. Here are 5 options he has available right now. Option 1. John could save up and book a professional studio for a day. Yes, it might cost somewhere between £500 and £2,000, but think of it as an investment. Let's say John has written 5 or 6 songs. By booking a single day or maybe 1 or 2 days in a studio, he can record all of them in one focused session. This approach maximizes efficiency, and because he's prepared ahead of time, he's not wasting any time figuring out things on the spot. In just 1 or 2 days, John can knock out enough material for an EP or even a small album. The key here is preparation. Before even stepping into the studio, he's rehearsed the songs to perfection. He knows the arrangements, the tempos, and the exact vibe that he's aiming for. This ensures that every minute in the studio counts, saving him money and frustration. Option 2. Now let's say John's budget is even tighter and the studio isn't on the cards just yet. That doesn't mean that he can't keep moving forward. With the gear he already has, his computer, a £100 interface, a microphone, and headphones, he can create a high-quality demo or even a fully produced track right at home. Programs like GarageBand, Reaper, or any other DAW provide the tools to make music sound polished even without a studio. There's also a wealth of free tutorials online that can help him fine-tune his recording skills. And if John isn't a pro at mixing or mastering, that's okay. He can still record his parts at home and then hire someone to mix the tracks later. This way, he's only outsourcing the final stage of the production process, which is far more affordable than renting an entire studio. Option 3, leveraging simplicity. Another option is to embrace a simpler sound. If John plays guitar or piano, for example, he could opt to record acoustic versions of his songs. Think the early days of Ed Sheeran, where a single guitar and a vocal performance was enough to capture audiences. This approach strips back the production, but it allows John to release something which is authentic and raw. People connect deeply with music that feels honest, and often less is more. Even with minimal equipment or no additional production, an acoustic EP or single can be just as powerful, and it's a great way to keep releasing music consistently while saving up for future projects. Option 4. If John's more into genres like hip-hop, pop, or R&B, where production plays a massive role, he doesn't need to be stuck because he lacks in-studio connections. The internet has leveled the playing field, and there are thousands of high-quality producers selling or leasing beats. John can go on platforms like BeatStars or even YouTube to find tracks that fit his style. This option lets him focus on writing and recording vocals, while the production side is taken care of by professionals. Option 5, collaborating or skill trading. Maybe he's great at lyric writing, or maybe great at top-line melodies. He could offer his skills to producers in exchange for some free production work. Or he could team up with a few fellow musicians to split the cost or share resources. Collaboration doesn't just save money, it also expands your network and opens new creative doors. No matter which option John chooses, the most important thing is to keep moving forwards. Lack of resources or perfectionism should never stop you from releasing music. There are affordable ways and accessible ways to produce and distribute your music now. Momentum is key, and I 100% guarantee you that your perception of your own music will be completely different to that of your audiences. So, every step forward, no matter how small, is progress. Each release brings new learning opportunities. And now that John has his music recorded, how does he actually get heard? Well, since John works 5 days a week and he has limited time, he'll need to be strategic about his visibility. Maybe it's not feasible for him to perform at traditional gigs because he works in the evenings, but he can still start to create an audience online. By leveraging social media, John can create content around his music. He can showcase the progress of his recording, share the behind-the-scenes moments, or even post acoustic performances. The key here is to start a conversation around his music and build a community online. Another option, John could hit the streets in his free time and busk in high-traffic areas. Not only could you potentially generate income, but it's also a great way to engage with new listeners directly. Every time someone hears him play, it's an opportunity for them to follow him online, buy his music, or come to his next gig. Lastly, your goal in any method is to create conversation. People are the key to success. They are the ones who will be consuming your music, and you have no idea who you will meet and who will be the person to change your life. Stay open. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by this entire process, remember, it's all about setting realistic goals. Focus on your input and your output goals and don't stress about the outcome. Stick to the cycle and over time you'll see progress. And if you're struggling with any particular part of the release process, just hit the link in the description. I'd be happy to talk about how I can help. But if you just want to dive deeper into how to set up yourself for success, then check out this video next where I'll break down the 3 pillars every artist needs to master.